Okay, for this lesson, we're going to add physical properties to 3D game objects. You are going to explore visual and physical effects so that you can achieve the ones that you can manipulate in a 3D scene. So you're going to create a material with a solid color. You're going to create a material with a texture map, and you're going to assign materials to game objects. So this is very exciting. So you're going to give game objects physical properties that will be useful to you as you create your own scenes. And you're going to add color to your objects and also make them react to gravity. You can mark the step number 1 as completed. Excellent. So now we'll get started with materials. Materials are components that define the surface characteristics of objects. You can create simple materials to change the visual appearance of your game objects. You can even apply different materials to different game objects to manage the ways your objects look. It is common practice to organize assets of varying types in separate folders. To create a folder for materials in your project, you can adjust your project number 1, your project window layout, as needed so that your project window matches the examples below. So for most of you, it is already in a 2-column layout. Because that's kind of like the default option. So you can go to the default option and select the 2 window. So here's a 2 window, here's 1 window, here's the other window. In the project window, you're going to right click the assets folder and select create folder and rename the folder to materials. We already have that created for most of you, because you go to assets and you go to materials, and then we have a folder with materials. If it doesn't look like that, you can go to assets and then you can create a folder, and then you can name that folder materials. And after that, you can mark step number 2 as completed. For step number 3, you're going to create a material with a solid color. You're going to follow these steps to create one you can use to apply a solid color to any game object. So in the project window, open the materials folder, and then you're going to right click and select create material to add a new material to that folder. And you're going to rename the new material solid blue. So we're gonna come here to materials, and then we're going to create a new material. There we go. Now we have a new material, and we're going to call it solid blue. Solid blue. That's gonna be the name of this color. That's a solid color. And we're going to select the solid blue material in the project window. In the inspector window, we're going to locate the albedo property. Albedo property. And this property specifies the base color of the material. So, okay, now we have the new material, solid blue. Right here. Materials, solid blue. And this is the inspector window, okay? And then in the inspector window, we're going to locate the albedo property. The property specifies the base color of the material. And we're going to use the color picker to give this material a blue color. All right, so we're gonna do that. In the inspector window, we're going to look for the albedo property. So let's see here. So you may have to click on each one of them to find what it is. And let's see, surface inputs. So it's a property. Let's look in here. Let's see here. So it's on rendering mode, main maps, albedo. Rendering mode, rendering path. Might be a different version of Unity because here we can find a different color. To give this material a blue color. And to make any game object blue, in my case I did it pink, you can just drag the solid blue material to your project window to any of the game objects in your scene. Now the color will change. After you've done that, you can mark the step as completed. And as you can see, I added other materials here. I made it a pink just for fun, and I added other materials here, and I'll show you how to do that later. But essentially you can just drag the color into the material and it'll change. Now you can start changing the materials of your project and mark this step number 3 as completed. You can create a material with a texture map. A texture map is an image file, such as a PNG or JPG, that you apply to a material. Artists use textures to add detail to the surfaces of game objects. To create a material with a texture map and apply it to your scene, you're going to download the herringbone brick base color PNG that is listed at the top of the tutorial. So it's the brick and it's right here, so you can pull it from here, you can download it. Okay, that's what it looks like. We go back to this color, to this step, and then to import the file into the project, you can just drag the downloaded file from your file directly into the materials folder in the project window. So like for example, I have this material, I'm going to save it in the downloads folder, and then I'm going to import the file into the project just by downloading it into the materials. So in this case it'll be, I have the materials right here, assets, materials, and then you can just pull it into that folder. So downloads, and then it's right here. And then you can rename the new material brick material. You can do it in multiple ways. So in this case, and now it shows on my file. So now the image is now applied to the materials as the albedo map or base map and will appear in the material preview in the inspector. And you can drag the material from the project window into a game object in the scene view, and the material is good for floors. And you can change the scale of the texture, you can select the brick material, and in the inspector change the tiling X and Y properties so that smaller numbers make the bricks appear larger. So we're gonna try that in the tiling. So let's see here. So I'm going to select, the floor number 1, this floor, and then in the inspector we can change the tile. Let's see here. Tiling 3, for example, and you can see that the bricks appear a lot smaller. You do this by selecting the sphere and then changing the number. Okay, after you have played with that, you can mark the step as completed. And then you can add a physical material. Before, you added a rigid body component to a game object to give it a physical property. Now you can also add additional physical characteristics with another type of material called physics material. A physics material is a different type of material that makes an object bounce and changes its friction and drag properties. These properties take effect when the object is under the effects of gravity. Physics materials don't change the visual properties of the game objects. It's just a movement characteristic that we are going to add to the project. So to create a physics material that will make game objects bounce, we're going to the project window, select the materials folder, right click and select create physics material. So we're going to create a physics material in the materials folder, and we're going to change the physics material to bouncy, and we're going to select the physics material. So we're gonna do that. Let's see here. We're gonna do it with this one. And here it says, open the materials folder, right click and select create a physics material. So that's what we're doing. We're creating a physics material. Create. Physics material here. We're gonna call it bouncy. Okay, so it's bouncy. And we're going to select the new physics material, and in the inspector we're going to change the bounciness value to 1. We're going to change the bounciness value to 1. Okay. After we have done that, we're going to select the sphere that falls in the scene. In the inspector window, notice the sphere collider component. A collider component is automatically included when you create a 3D primitive, such as the sphere. We're going to drag the new bouncy physics material we created, into the material property in the sphere collider component. While you're at it, give your sphere a color using a regular material if you haven't already. We're going to enter the play mode, and the sphere should now fall to the platform and have a bit of bounce when it lands. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So let's see here. So we're going into Unity. We have the bouncy property here, and we're going to add it into multiple places. Into the brick. Material property. Let's see. Okay, so I have multiple objects that fall, so I have to go back and look at my bouncy objects, which are up here. So I have to get closer so that I can select them. So it looks like I have to add the bouncy into each one of them. So I did it on that one. Now I'll select a different one. We're going to add the bouncy property. Okay, I added it to that one. So I want to add it to each one of them. And I'm also going to add a different material and see what happens. So I'm going to add this to each one of them. First, I have to select it, and then after I selected it, I can drag the bouncy part. So you do it with each one of them. I added multiple ones. Okay. I'm also going to add a gold material to each one of them, to some of them. If you created materials, you can add those materials in there and we'll see what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to save, and now I'm going to click play. Let's see what happens. Now they bounce. Awesome. So we added a little bit of animation and now they should bounce. Okay, so after you did that, you can mark the step as completed, and then for the following steps, you see that now you know how materials are made, how game objects can change their appearance, and now we added physical characteristics so that the objects can bounce. Now you can add more bouncing balls if you haven't. So great, awesome, good job. Thank you so much.